Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of The Digital Advantage. I am Anne, and with me is our fearless leader and co-host of the podcast, Jim Moore. Any introductory words to share?
Well, I'll claim the former moniker in that case. I'm sorry, the latter moniker and not the former, but thank you for the kind words. It's nice to be with you.
All right. If you don't remember, we are digital marketing experts from MMDC, and we're excited to continue sharing our marketing experiences and hopefully some advice with you, our listeners. And today, our main focus is a deep dive into E.E.A.T and its impact on content marketing. To kick us off, I think we're ready to dive in. I guess I'll start with E.E.A.T is mostly known as a crucial guideline for ranking well on Google. It influences trust and credibility in terms of digital content. Any experiences that you can share with a history of E.E.A.T or E.A.T?
Yes, you set that up perfectly. I'm going to go way back and talk about when I first started in this business, which was decades ago. SEO, or search engine optimization, used to be as easy as making sure you had the right metadata on your site. I remember being able to tell clients, if your metadata matches your content, you're in good shape. If your metadata, the example I used to use was about poodles and your page was about German Shepherds, you probably wouldn't rank well. But that's about all you had to know about search engine optimization back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, anybody who's involved in search engine optimization or even just trying to optimize their own site for traffic recognizes that's no longer the case. And it's become more and more complicated to figure out exactly what to do for search engine optimization when you're putting your content together. So that brings us to 3 or 4 years ago. Google is reticent about releasing any information that, and we're going to concentrate on Google in our conversation because that, regardless of what you think of them, they drive 95% of the search traffic on the internet.
Definitely the most popular search engine.
No question about it. And they own not only the most popular content search engine or text search engine, but the second and third most popular search engines they also own, which are YouTube and image search.
That's
so
right.
Google's the major player. To bring us up to 3 or 4 years ago, I'm going to estimate, Google said, we're not going to tell you specifically what you need to do to rank well, but we're going to give you some general guidelines. And from that developed this concept that you introduced as E.A.T, which we could call it E.A.T back in the day. That's become more complicated, which stood for expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. If your content was written with those guidelines in mind to prove that you were an expert, an authority, and that you were trustworthy, you had a pretty good chance of ranking well. Well, lo and behold, the dawn of AI.
Yeah.
And it was very easy for AI to mimic, or mimic may not be the right word. They could write content. AI could write content that indicated that they were an expert in whatever topic they were talking about. They could be authoritative about whatever topic they were talking about, and they could come across as trustworthy. Google wanted to make sure that they were ranking material that was written by authentic people rather than AI. Those lines have become a little more fuzzy, but the way that Google approached that, to be able to separate AI or distinguish AI content from authentic person content, was they've added an extra E to that formulation, which, as you pointed out, makes it E.E.A.T. And the extra E stands for experience, which AI has a little more difficulty trying to establish, since AI doesn't have experience. Google looks for that, not as a ranking factor necessarily, but as a distinguishing factor. If they find good content, expertise can be part of their evaluation of content. So there's a brief history of SEO, E.A.T, and E.E.A.T.
Yeah, I like to think of it as, unlike the other ranking factors that you have just carefully outlined, I think the extra E kind of focuses on evaluating who is creating the content and how reliable it is, which, like you just mentioned, is harder for AI to kind of integrate itself into, or we're trying to avoid saying mimic or but I think it all just works or helps Google towards its goal of ensuring high quality, credible, valuable content. And if anyone does any research on E.E.A.T, I think the first thing you'll see is that it comes into play, especially in industries or fields like medical or law fields or any field. There's a term that Google uses to specify those fields, which is escaping me right now, but just fields that are really, that people are searching Google for and have, dire consequences if gotten wrong on the internet.
Excellent points. And if you don't mind, I'll add on just a little bit. You said early on the who part of Google's evaluation, and Google will point out in their documentation related to E.E.A.T, that's one of the specific items that goes into that first E, the expertise. It's who's writing this.
Yeah.
And since AI is not a who,
yeah,
not yet, you can kind of concentrate on expertise being about the who is writing it. And I think your point about the potential consequences of information being delivered that's not from a who or someone who has experience is very important. So I agree with everything you said. Excellently said.
Thank you. Maybe we can start breaking down the components of E.E.A.T. Well, maybe starting with the original players. We can start with expertise. I think this one's kind of easier to understand. Expertise refers to the depth of the knowledge in a given field. So I think formal expertise for matters like medical advice, like we mentioned earlier, or law advice, it's a little easy to establish that on the internet. I think usually like author bios, you'll see that in content online, or on, if maybe not on the particular content, but somewhere on the website, there'll be information about this company and who is part of the company. Sometimes people include credentials. I think that's helps to kind of establish expertise. Another key factor would probably be citing sources for kind of long form, maybe journals or long form content entries. Any other forms of expertise that I haven't mentioned yet that you can think of?
No, those are excellent examples. And I'll just add this to what you're saying. I think if we can go back to the original analogy of the poodle and the German Shepherd,
Yeah.
and this is an oversimplification, but I think it illustrates why that expertise is so important. When people are trying to make decisions about content that's being delivered to them via Google, when you think about asking a question about a particular dog breed,
Yeah.
who do you want the information from? Who is the expert, the German Shepherd breeder or the poodle breeder? Let's, in regards to your a question about German Shepherds, that's where the expertise in the simplest sense comes into play. All the things you mentioned help establish that. I mean, if you're a registered AKA dog breeder in the breed of German Shepherds, that's probably something that should be mentioned in your content in order to distinguish you from someone who may have a credential for poodles, as in our example.
Yeah, I really like this example. Let's bring it into the next component of E.E.A.T, authority, or sometimes referred to as authoritativeness, which is a longer way to say that. And I think that authority kind of refers to being recognized as an industry leader. And there's a variety of different ways that people can build authority. A great example is, building backlinks from other reputable sites. That's one that you'll see mentioned a lot in SEO circles. Any examples that you can think of that you want to add?
I think I'd say this about authority. The backlinks can be important. The most recent things I've read are that Google is lessening their emphasis on that signal.
Okay. Hot tip.
But it's still a signal. The challenge is with backlinking, it's easy to fake. So I should say this, that Google is more discriminatory about what they count as a quality backlink than they used to be. But that doesn't diminish the importance of backlinks. If you write good content, good authoritative content, other sources are going to link back to you when they try to establish their own expertise.
Absolutely.
But my comment for authority is, I think if we think about the root of authority, it generally means first.
Yeah.
And what Google is looking for in that case is that you are generating content related to a subject that furthers the subject. You're introducing new facts into the discussion. That establishes authority in their minds, or potentially establishes authority. I don't want to make any of this sound like if we do these things, we're going to do well automatically. That's not the case at all. They're just general guidelines.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the ways that you establish authority is by introducing new thought into the conversation. You're coming up with fact and information associated with the topic that you're writing about that introduces something new to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense to me. I guess here's a question I'll pose to you. What about things like online reviews? Where do you think that would fit in the E.E.A.T acronym?
That's a great question, Ian. I've never thought about it in those terms, and I'll tell you why. Because Google reviews in particular are so important, especially for local SEO, that they're a standalone signal. That's not to say that they wouldn't impact establishing authoritative content, but they're such a strong standalone signal that I think that's kind of a secondary consideration.
Okay.
And you find that with the local pack in Google and with Google Maps, that all things being even, that company in a particular vertical that has the most positive Google reviews is going to win the day. So they're a strong signal on their own. It probably does impact the authoritativeness of your content overall.
Yeah. And the last one that I can think of is maybe like guest posting. I know that is something that people definitely take advantage of. I think you have, again, a reputable content writer who is known as an authority in the field that you're maybe trying to target. That could definitely impact your score, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's well connected to that idea of introducing new facts into conversation. If you're a guest poster on a site that's already established as an authority, and you can introduce new information, factual information into the conversation, that does help establish your authority, the authority of your own content.
Absolutely. And last in the original E.E.A.T acronym is T, which stands for trustworthiness, or trust. I definitely feel trust is kind of foundational in Google's ranking system. And this, in my mind, comes in a couple, or brings to mind a couple things, including security, accuracy, and maybe transparency. I think there's a lot of different back-end processes that go into trust that I'm sure you can go into more than I could. You definitely have a lot more experience in that than me.
Well, I think that may be the element of our acronym that's most impacted by reviews. one of the
Oh,
ways
yeah,
you establish trustworthiness is by positive
absolutely.
reviews. So I think that may be the better nexus for reviews and the E.E.A.T formulation in general.
Yeah,
And of course, if you have an insecure site, you don't have good transparency in terms of policies and how you're using users' information.
yeah,
Google's a stickler for that stuff, and some of that will eliminate you if it's not done correctly or done improperly or not done at all. Can eliminate you from Google completely. They'll block you. You're not going to get listed for anything, and it won't only push your ranking down. It can blacklist you. So yeah, there's several factors that go into that. Some of which most reasonable website owners probably take care of it. A lot of that's automated now in the publication of websites, but there are things that miss. ADA compliance is a big deal these days, and that can be a factor. And it may be one that some website owners overlook.
hmm
I think we're in a circumstance where there's so many websites now that don't pay attention to that. It's kind of an even playing field. But as that becomes a more prominent element for trustworthy and authoritative sites to have, it'll be necessary for everybody to be in ADA compliance to compete in Google.
yeah.
So that excellent observations about the T in trustworthiness. I like T for transparency also. Maybe we should
Oh,
change the
yeah.
acronym to
Make it our own.
E.E.A.T.
We'll make it into a sentence pretty soon.
That's right.
I guess that brings us to our newest addition to E.A.T, making it E.E.A.T, which is experience. And if you listen to our previous episode, I'm just going to plug in that we have other episodes of this podcast.
Absolutely.
We definitely spoke a little bit about experience and how AI plays into that, how AI brought about the importance of experience and how important it is to all parts of digital marketing, including SEO. I think Google has definitely grown to value firsthand knowledge from all types of content creators. I think there's a lot of different examples of how you can impact experience in terms of content online. How would you bring the experience or the experience part of the acronym to our example with the poodles and the German shepherds?
Excellently done. Yeah, that's great. So I'll try to make a simple example out of that.
Mhm.
And let's say that we've got an even playing field, and I'm going to use the German Shepherd as our example again. Someone is searching for the best behavioral training model for my German Shepherd puppy, and we have several sites that are available. Let's say one of them is AI-driven content, which you could come up with a website that has lots of content that AI has answered for you on behalf of the best behavior training model for a German Shepherd. You've got a site that is a homeowner, not an expert in any way, but someone who has raised several German Shepherd puppies. And then you have an expert in the field who has the registrations and bona fides that we've talked about. Google's job is to deliver to that person searching the best content available. What is the best answer to their question? And when we think through those three options, we can say the AI content may be helpful to a degree, but it is going to be, for the most part, a regurgitation of everything everybody already knows. That's the large language model. It not yet. It doesn't yet think for itself in terms of creating novel information. It may combine existing knowledge into novel formulation, but it can't come up with novel formulation. Novel facts.
Yeah, think of it as like a summary of what else is already out there.
Exactly, that's the case, and that may not always be the case, but that's currently the case, and
Very
that's
true.
why Google wants to differentiate it from
Original
authentic
content.
person, right?
Yeah.
Now we're left with the two folks, one who's raised puppies and one who has some degree of scientific backing and experience. Who's going to deliver the best answer, and who's going to be able to work with the subtleties of what that person is searching for? Who has the most experience, has the most behavioral challenges with German Shepherd dogs? Google has to make that determination. And
Yeah.
something, if that person with the experience of the in our scenario can communicate that in their content, introducing novel experiences, introducing flexibility, customization, and a broad knowledge that the person who just raised puppies may not have, that's where Google's going to say, you're the most trustworthy source for this, or has the most experience for in this instance, and we're going to put your content at the top of this search engine results page or SERP. So to complicate what was originally a very simple analogy, that's how that would come together.
Excellent. And now I'm sure everyone who's listening would be interested to know how they can kind of apply the themes that we just talked about to their content, or perhaps optimize their content for E.E.A.T. So one thing that comes to mind for me right off the bat is the idea of credentials, social proof, and experience. I feel like those are easy ways to build all four themes here. So credentials obviously speak to experience, it speaks to expertise, it speaks to authoritativeness, it kind of speaks to all of them. Maybe not trustworthiness or transparency, but definitely the first three. I think if you have a website and you have credentials, whether it be, PhD or other things like that, I think it's very important to highlight that on your website. And in terms of social proof, I think this could be where reviews play in, or like Google reviews, or if you have written reviews from your customers or clients, those are definitely good to highlight on your website. That's what I think of in terms of social proof. And I think those, we've already mentioned experience in a couple different ways. I think those are easy wins in terms of optimizing your content for E.E.A.T. Are there any other easy wins that you can advise people on engaging with?
I defer to you, Miss Ann Eckwer, the content specialist in this instance. Everything you said, I'd associate myself with. I think that the most important thing to keep in mind in establishing any of the components of the acronym are, remember you're writing for people and you want to deliver value. If that's your overriding approach to your content, that you understand you're writing for people, not for search engines, you're writing for people who have questions, and you want to establish a valuable answer for those questions, you're going to, for the most part, you're going to take care of most of what E.E.A.T stands for. Now, the things that you pointed out are very important. I mean, let's say everybody does the same thing. Everybody's intentions are to write valuable content.
Yeah.
There has to be a way to make yourself differentiate yourself from everybody else. Those things are important that you just mentioned.
Thank you. One other, I guess maybe not a tip, but it's a do not do this. I feel like from what I've read about Google's mysterious ways is one key way to kind of lower your reliability and scoring on Google is having outdated content. I think this kind of works in opposition with everything that we've talked about up till now. I think outdated content, or regurgitating content that maybe has been proven wrong, is a signal to Google that your content, it doesn't follow the E.E.A.T guidelines.
Absolutely.
I think that's something to keep in mind when creating content, is just things change quickly in today's world and on the internet. So just making sure that you don't have any content on your website or other places that hold content for your brand that are proven wrong. That would be a no, a big no.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100% with that. That's an excellent observation. Most of the resources that I read on a daily basis will not only tell you to remove incorrect information from your website, but go back and update older information
Yeah.
for current questions that are being asked about the same information. So yeah, I would say that having outdated information or proven wrong information on your website is the opposite of the E.E.A.T. I don't know what that would be in terms of an acronym for that.
Yeah. Well, come back next episode. We might have a new acronym.
That's right.
And lastly, I know we've talked about this in our previous episode as well. We just definitely want to highlight that if you are using AI generated content, human oversight is just so important. And especially for the E.E.A.T, following those guidelines, you can obviously use AI to support your content creation, and people do it clearly. But it's just key to have human oversight over that to make sure that you don't have incorrect content getting published on your site.
Absolutely. And I would think that in today's world, the majority of incorrect information is coming from AI without oversight.
Yeah.
It's amazing what AI can do and how fast it can adjust. But the fact is that it's going to have outdated information in its database. And if it gets spit out and you just copy and paste, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. We really hope you enjoyed listening to our voices. Thanks again for tuning in. Any last words, Jim?
Nope. Nicely done, Ann. I appreciate your expertise, and in terms of delivering valuable information, you're a leader.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you as well. And on that note, we'll say goodbye for this episode, and we hope you tune in next time.
Thank you, and be well.